All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a wonderful day. I got another watch list for you, and the stock market will crash if the dollar goes higher. I thought I'd start this off with a title that'll catch your attention, but now the dollar is getting very important here. I really do think that this week is going to be a little bit more calm, but a couple of things happened today. The first thing is that the dollar actually came down, and this is your first time pretty much since the beginning of February. You only had like 1 or 2 days where the dollar calmed down a little bit, and a lot of people are bringing this up. But now what is starting to stand out is that the correlation between the stock market and the dollar, it is reaching an extreme that we have not seen in the last 5 years, and it is at a negative 0.7, meaning they are negatively correlated. If the dollar goes up, the stock market is going down, and if the dollar is going down, the stock market has been going up. This is a trend that we've seen from the beginning of 2022, but now throughout the last year, even this part of the rally, people are bringing this up. Even though we kind of had our green day today, one thing in the back of everybody's minds is as the Fed is repricing interest rates, or the market is, this is getting people to start looking at the dollar as that safe haven again. So moving forward after this week, I would definitely encourage you to be watching the dollar, especially as we get into the data next week. It is probably going to be very, very important. So that's the first thing. I don't got any videos to start with. I know I gave you some good dopamine content yesterday, but now I also want to talk about a big biotech play. It is RETA. They have a PDUFA tomorrow. That is the Prescription Drug User-Free Act. It is essentially a drug approval, but the story with this, they have their event tomorrow, but they drop 39% at one point today because the head of the FDA's neurology department, I think it's Bill Dunn, well, he stepped away, he retired, resigning immediately, and this led people to call into question the approval because they're like, wait a minute, if that guy's leaving, well, what's going to happen with RETA, because it's still a neurology drug, and Bill, he has a history of passing drugs that don't really have too big of studies, aka the Biogen one, but now some people are saying, well, given the timing of everything, more or less, they probably already made their decision, but the fact this guy left, it led the stock towards dropping, and then the thing about it, this thing has been up here almost like 50%, 100% to start the year. And if you go and look at the options on RETA, man, I'm telling you, this thing is absolutely insane. Just look right here. It's pricing in $39. That is more than the stock is even worth right now. So it's going to be wild tomorrow. The data is either going to come out in the morning, or hopefully there's enough time to play it throughout the day, then it comes out after hours. But I would definitely be watching this one. And this one we might be able to learn from because you actually saw a gigantic move on the biotech ahead of the PDUFA day. Look at that volume, too. It's pretty wild. So I think it's going to be wild. We have a lot more to talk about. We're going to talk about what happened today, all of the data, how the market responded. Even though we went down intraday, you still closed up about over 0.5% on the NASDAQ, which was good. It was a good start, but now some people are still worried about the market, and that's why I'm bringing up the dollar, because this really did stand out today. So I got all of that. I got the plays that we made, the plays for tomorrow, and it's going to be exciting, Chad. So hope you're ready. Hopefully you like that video, and if you don't know, baby, we are live Monday through Friday, 30 minutes before open, youtube.com/the stock market. There's going to be a lot of data this week. We're going to have it all for you there, so hopefully we see you, but definitely next week, oh, it's going to be crazy. You're not going to want to miss it. Run it, baby. Yeah.
Walking to the couch, it's a 2020 election. Live in the hills, but I still get a spread. Started with a live, but I still reinvest it. Feel how I feel, then you feel like it's a blessing. I just want the lesson, I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but they sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down.
But right off the bat, we're going to start here with the charts, because the first thing you got to notice is that this morning we gapped up. This was without any data. China and Europe were kind of all over the place. Then later in the session, as we got into the early morning, things started to rebound a little bit. People started to chill out, and then we had the gap up. Then some of the data started coming in, and now that's the real main point about this. Even the rest of the week, you had big data sets come in, and even tomorrow you're going to have even more. I got the whole list for you, but overall, the reaction to the data was still muted. If anything, what we really saw today was action in the pre-market right when the bell rang. You got to go up there for about 35 minutes, and then as more and more data came in, you reacted, but it wasn't just to the data and what we saw in the morning. You got reactions, but believe it or not, we were able to brush it off a little bit. So now coming into tomorrow, as far as the data that you're going to get and even understanding today, we're going to start with what happened. You had the durable goods in the morning that came in slightly negative, not too big of a surprise, and then they revised last month lower, and then durable goods excluding transportation, cap goods, they kind of moved, but if anything, it was positive movement. Nothing about the pre-market data surprised at all, but then this is the data that really got people. The pending home sales, both month over month and year over year, they rebounded aggressively. Here is the chart now for real estate, and you see how big this move is right there. Well, this was your biggest jump in month over month real estate since June 2020. So that wasn't really good for inflation, but believe it or not, the market actually started to go up. So that came out around, I think, like 10 a.m. right around here, and you went from 400 all the way to like 401.26, and then the Dallas Fed came in. That is this chart here, and this dropped more than expected. That came in at like negative 13.5 versus an expectation of 9.3. Then we started to react, but in the meantime, you got to hear a lot of other stuff from both Phil Jackson. No, that's the Lakers coach. I meant Philip Jefferson of the Fed. He had some comments. Morgan Stanley, they started to come out talking about these rate hikes and what is expected, and that they no longer expect any sort of rate cuts by the end of 2023, even though they previously did. And then there's like one more event, but it was a lot of stuff that played in, and then we started coming down, dancing, random flush, European close flush, chilled out, had a little bit of a bounce. The bounces were definitely muted today, and even coming into after hours, believe it or not, power hour was very, very uneventful, but all in all, it was all about the data that we got, and I hope you see the reaction, because we reacted and we didn't, and now we have a lot more on the way. So coming into tomorrow, you're getting advanced trades good in the morning, wholesale inventories in the morning, retail inventories. Then 30 minutes after that, 30 minutes before the bell, you're going to get house price index, Core Logic's 20 city month over month and year over year. Then 15 minutes after the bell, you're going to get the Chicago PMI, and then 15 minutes after that, you're getting Richmond Fed manufacturing. You already saw how Dallas played out, and then 30 minutes after all that, you're going to get Dallas Fed services, which, like I told you yesterday, that will be a big one. And don't forget about the Conference Board of Consumer Confidence. So hopefully you got a little bit of a preview today where it's like we got to react to the data, but not entirely, and now the market's kind of trying to find its footing. If anything, I would be watching the bond yields and especially the dollar moving forward from here. But that is key number one. Coming into key number two now, a big part of today is that not only did you see all this stuff happening, I mean, the one point I kept highlighting is that we actually still ended up green. I think that was like the funniest part about today, is because if you looked at it intraday, it just felt like we were going down and people weren't excited, but you were up 0.5% on the NASDAQ, 1/3% on the SPY and Dow, and that's just like towards the end of the day. For most of the day, it was like pretty solid. NASDAQ up about 1%, but now taking into account what happened here, you had a bunch of bankers from JP Morgan's Kalanovic, Morgan Stanley, Michael Wilson again, and a bunch of others. People still kept on very, very hawkish this morning. Some people were even saying a premature relief, or any relief in the market is premature. And then Philip Jefferson, the Fed guy, he had a speech in front of Harvard, and it was slightly hawkish. You usually don't hear from Phil Jefferson too much. Some of you don't even realize how he's new. Again, that surprised a lot of us, but he's actually a voting member. He kind of stuck to the script, said we have more work to do, but he didn't really say anything that would have moved the Fed futures. But there was all of that to take into play. And just don't forget, this week you are still going to be getting like I think 3 or 4 other Fed speakers between now and Friday. So that was important. That is key number 2. And then finally, key number 3, baby. My view on this week still remains the same. I'm pretty much thinking this is going to be our week to cool. I mean, definitely tomorrow is going to show us a lot, because from an hour before the bell all the way to an hour after the bell, we're going to get a ton of data. So let's see what the market does, but see what moves it more. Is it going to be the data, or now is it going to be momentum and other factors like what is going on overseas, the dollar, bonds, all of that good stuff? So keep your eyes out for that. But now in the meantime, I would be watching for the levels to either create more momentum to the downside. A lot of people have their eyes on the 4,000, and if we go below 4,000, it leads into 39.70, and then 39.70 on SPX leads the door to 360, and then if you can't hold 360, then you're looking at 3,900, and that could open up a lot of momentum to the downside, and that's what a lot of eyes are on, both technical strategies, algo strategies. A lot of people are bringing this up, and then vice versa, though, if we do find a way to get support off of some of these levels, that might kind of confirm the theory here this week that the data is not going to move and kind of buy us time until we get CPI and everything else next week. So I'm pretty excited. I think it's going to be an interesting one. We got a lot of movement, but it definitely felt a little bit more boring, but we'll see if that changes in the next couple of days. So I hope you're ready, but let us get into the plays. So right off the bat, I got 3 different plays that I'm looking at. We made a couple of day trades today. I'm going to go over those, but I got to start with play number 1, man. This is the biotech that I brought up here in the beginning, RETA, R-E-T-A. We might get the data in the morning. If not, it'll be after hours, but I was saying it all day here today. Please don't ask me 1,000 times because we'd never know. That's just how it is with these PDUFAs, FDA ones. If you even remember PRVB, Longeveron, a lot of these different plays, even OMA, I remember that one came in a little bit later. It's either going to happen right in the morning when we wake up, and if it doesn't, it'll happen some point after hours, or maybe they could even halt it middle of the day and give that approval. But now, here's the thing. This approval is 50-50, and I am not the only person who sees that. So this is that little excerpt that I showed you here. This is from SVB Capital. I believe his name is Joseph Schwartz, and he put out a note. And as you see here towards the bottom, yeah, they're talking about how the decision probably was already made before Mr. Dunn has departed, but he sees the decision as a coin flip and assigns a 50% chance of Omavexilone, I hope I said that right, will gain approval and keep the market perform rating on there. So a lot of people are bullish on this stock. There's a lot of crazy ratings, but like we talked about in the beginning, their problem is this is their only trial. So they need to get it approved. They don't have any other publicly approved drugs right now. So they have a whole pipeline of all these things, but nothing is approved, and they can't make any money until that. And that's what kind of makes this play risky. But the way I'm looking at it, I just love the risk to reward. I have 100 shares at around like 31.50 or something like that, pretty much where it's trading now. And we talked about this today. What I would keep in mind, I'm hoping that the approval comes after hour, because then we could take advantage of this, is selling covered calls. I was going to do it today, but if we get this opportunity tomorrow, keep in mind with these biotechs, they're either going to go down 50 to 80%, or if they do good, they can run up, but be careful of that sell the news event. But using covered calls, you can lower your cost basis tremendously. So on RETA, there was a bunch of options like I showed you guys in the beginning of the video. This thing is pricing in about $39. So I have shares at like 31 bucks. So as I open my position, yeah, right here, 31.54 will go down here, but we were talking about it. It's like if you wanted to sell, let's say the $50 cover call, at one point this was going for $1,000 throughout the day. You are pretty much agreeing to sell your 100 shares here for $50 by shorting that call. If we bought at $31, that's like what, $19 gain, $1,900 max gain if it goes to 50. Anything above 50, you don't get paid if you short this contract and sell the covered call. But now here's the best part. If you get $1,000 for this, that is $10, right? That's imagine $10 per share. You just effectively lowered your cost basis by $10 more, because if the stock goes down, you collect that premium. You've made $1,000. It would take you $10 more to lose $1,000, and then voila. So hopefully you see what I'm saying. Depending on how tomorrow plays out, we're either going to get our opportunity or we're just going to wake up and then this thing has done what it's supposed to do. But that is play number 1. Keep your eyes out for that. Then play number 2, BKI. This is Black Knight. They were in talks for ICE to buy them. And then today we got news that regulators said no to that deal. But here's the key part about this one. The stock was already trading as if this wouldn't happen. And that's what makes it so unique, because it had this like buyout news related to it. But if you go and look at the chart, man, this thing wasn't even moving like it had a buyout. It wasn't staying pinned or nothing like that. And this was under the assumption that most people believed that the deal wouldn't have gone through. So to see it drop today, I think it makes it very interesting. And I think on both ways, up and down, this could definitely be a good one to start trading this week. And I am definitely going to keep my eyes out for it. But that is play number 2. And then finally, play number 3, depending on what happens tomorrow with RETA. Some of you may get excited, some might not, but I got some more biotechs for you. CYTK, GTHX, and Radius. These are all biotechs with approval actions or PDUFAs in the next coming days. I think CYTK, they have a PDUFA scheduled for tomorrow as well. GTHX, they have like a regulatory action by the end of February, and then same thing with Radius. I think Radius has a PDUFA, but tomorrow's the last day of February. These calendars, these are the companies that we have not heard from. These could also be potential movers. And I think it wasn't too long ago we brought up a couple of these, and we have been seeing a move. So if I'm expecting a chill week, and we'll see if tomorrow's as boring as it was today, maybe these biotechs will take over. But other than that, I am definitely going to be watching RETA. And if we have any more opportunities, it could be fire. But those are the main plays as far as everything else. Now, we'll get into the plays I made today. This was the other trade, AMD. I grabbed 100 shares, $79.39. I think last time I flipped the 50 shares at like $79.80. Stocks were looking good in the morning. I told you about my upside theory. I noticed NVIDIA was outperforming there, and AMD was a little bit behind. So I said, okay, let's go for it, especially if NVIDIA could break through their post-earnings highs there around like 238, which I would keep that point in mind for them as well too. But decided to add 100 shares there, still holding. We were up on it most of the day, and then it started to flip. But there was that one. Here's RETA. I bought 50 shares at $35. Then it dropped down to 27, so I averaged down, and my average on 100 shares turned into about 31 bucks. And then towards the end of the day, you haven't seen this one in a while, but now that we've kind of chilled out on other plays, still holding the NQ, I went for one of those little quick flips on the ES. Got 4 points, four and a quarter. It was like $200, not too bad up there. But then I ended up closing it, so I'm no longer holding it. But that was pretty much it. Everything else, it's going to make me load all these, still in the NQ and pretty much every other play. And then all we added here today was the AMD. And then I'm still in those Googles. I'm really liking. People keep asking me what I plan to do with it. I'm holding, Google, Amazon. I have these big tech plays that are down, but the idea here is to kind of balance them out. But I'm hoping Google could get above $100. And the idea here would be kind of trim this as we get to a point of trimming this. And honestly, I'll show you this because you should know all the other plays. One thing we were talking about with the NQ today was even flipping options on this or to protect this. So remember, this play was down a lot more. One thing I was talking about here is that if you look at the futures on options, and if you didn't know, yes, that does exist. You could trade a option contract on a future. We were talking about using these as a hedge. So I was looking at the April end of the month. Depending on how we want to pull this off, really what I said is that if we could get down to like here on the SPY, just like a couple more percent down, set a new low on all the indexes, I think insurance is going to be really cheap. But if you go and look at the options on a lot of these plays here for the futures, most of this is half off, meaning any insurance on these plays, if we could get the right ratio, they're half off than a couple of weeks ago. And now I could reinsure this play after seeing what happened, and I could get it at a discount as well too. So thought that one was interesting, but that's pretty much what I'm going to be looking for the rest of the week, not to mention everything else, watching the data, and then seeing what the Fed futures and dollar do. So I hope you're ready, but that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure Hydrate Healthy ready to go. Make sure post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shining. I need you to remember, baby, that justification will keep you doing the same. Don't let the justification keep you in hell. You can learn from it. Is a justification stopping you from growing? Well, then stop justifying it, baby. Start learning. Get better. Self-development. Personal development. I go down the list, baby. But Chad, we're ending February. God bless you and GG and salute, man. That's another month in the books with the Colt. We got another one remaining in March, bro. It's about to be March Madness. So I hope you're ready, Chad. Drink the water. Stay hydrated, healthy, all that. I love you. Horn.